He asked me to pretend to be his long-lost daughter, but the secret I discovered made me question my own story. The corridors at Mass General had a different silence at night, not the quiet of peace, but the pause before something breaks. My hands, usually so steady around needles and medication, trembled as I walked toward room 814. The tray I carried seemed to grow heavier with every step, as if it knew I was about to cross a line I could never uncross. Lucas Alencar was not just another wealthy patient. He was a legend in Boston, the pharmaceutical billionaire who built an empire from nothing, praised for his brilliance and feared for his ruthlessness. And now, according to the medical briefings, he was fading from a degenerative disease that even his money could not cure. The door slid open, revealing a suite that defied the word hospital. It was a luxury apartment with medical equipment, the perfect paradox for a man who had always lived between extremes. He was sitting up, not lying down as I had expected. His green eyes, the same eyes that, according to business magazines, could rattle chief executives in billion-dollar meetings, locked onto mine with an intensity that stopped my breath. There was no fog of heavy medication in them, only sharp, painful clarity. Nurse Isabel, his voice was a rough whisper, surprisingly steady. I need a favor that will sound completely insane. My training lit up with warnings. Terminal patients often had unusual requests, late reconciliations, confessions, elaborate goodbyes. But there was something different in the way he looked at me. It was specific. "What can I do for you, Mr. Alencar?" My voice sounded professional, while my heart beat too hard. He closed his eyes for a moment, as if gathering himself for a confession he had carried for decades. When he opened them again, there was a vulnerability that contradicted everything I knew about him. "My daughter was lost 20 years ago." The words came out sacred, heavy with more than their literal meaning. "I want you to pretend to be her for one day." The floor seemed to drop beneath me. Why would a man who had everything, a fortune of about $4.3 billion, a global company, homes across 3 continents, ask for something so human? What emptiness in his life demanded a last-minute performance like this? My own story echoed in his request. I grew up in the Massachusetts foster system, 7 placements before I earned my independence at 18. The word family always sounded like a foreign language I never learned to speak. And now, at the edge between life and whatever comes after, this man asked me to play the most intimate role there is. "Mr. Alencar," I began, trying to thread compassion through professionalism, "I understand this is a difficult moment, but please." His hand lifted from the bed, thin pale fingers reaching toward me in a gesture both pleading and commanding. I know how it sounds. But there are things I need to set right before I go. And I need a daughter to do it. Something in the disarmed sincerity of his eyes touched a place in me I had kept locked for years. Maybe it was the exhaustion of 3 consecutive night shifts. Maybe it was the memory of all the nights I wondered what it would feel like to have a father who wanted me nearby. Or maybe it was one soul recognizing another in pain. For one day, I heard myself whisper, my fingers finding his in what should have been a professional gesture, but felt terribly personal. "I will pretend to be your daughter for one day." Relief moved visibly through his fragile body. "Thank you," he breathed, his eyelids beginning to sag. "There is so much I need to tell you about everything." Before my mind could process the size of what I had just agreed to, the door behind me burst open. The click of heels cut across the marble before I even turned. Elena Alencar swept in, her tall, elegant frame filling the room with an energy that sharpened the air. She wore an immaculate suit that cost more than my monthly salary, but it was her eyes, the color of polished steel, that froze me in place. Behind her, a man in a perfectly cut suit held a leather portfolio. In his hands, a document with a red ribbon that my medical training recognized instantly. "Lucas, darling," Elena's voice was honey with venom. "I brought the lawyer to finalize those papers we discussed. It is time to put everything in order." Her gaze slid past me as if I were invisible, but not before I caught the flash of calculation there, an instant threat assessment. Lucas tried to sit higher, his weak muscles trembling with effort. "Elena," his voice was stronger now, edged with an emotion I had not heard from him, "this is not the moment." "On the contrary, love," she smiled, but it never reached her eyes. "It is exactly the moment. Dr. Robertson said we must prepare for every eventuality." Her eyes landed on me again, and this time the challenge in them was unmistakable. "Nurse, perhaps you should give my husband a little privacy. Family matters, you understand." My hand was still on Lucas's, and I felt his fingers tighten around mine. A small gesture, but enough. "Actually," I heard myself say before reason interfered, "Mr. Alencar and I were in the middle of an important conversation. About family." Elena's smile froze. Her eyes narrowed a fraction as she studied my face, and fear pricked under my skin, threaded with resolve. The lawyer stepped forward. "Mr. Alencar, we understand this is a difficult time, but it is crucial these documents be signed while you are lucid." Lucid hung in the air like an accusation. Suddenly the pieces locked into place, Lucas's desperate request, Elena's timing, the rush to sign. Lucas looked at me, and in his green eyes I saw gratitude, and a silent plea. In that moment, caught between the dying billionaire and the calculating wife, I made my choice. "Father," the word left my mouth before I could stop it, strange and, somehow, right. Perhaps we should hear what they have to say. The room went absolutely still. Even the heart monitor seemed to pause. Elena did not move, her face a mask of disbelief edged with a fury she barely contained. Lucas, however, smiled, a real smile, raw with pain and triumph. "Yes, daughter," he said, his voice weighted with meaning. "Let us listen. Together." As the lawyer opened the portfolio and Elena regained her poise, I felt the gravity of the part one was playing, and the very real danger I had stepped into. Because something told me this was not a performance to comfort a dying man. It was the first move in a war that would change not only Lucas Alencar's fate, but mine. And while Elena studied my face with unsettling focus, one question began to rise in me. Why was she looking at me not as a stranger, but as someone she recognized, and feared? What began as a performance turned strangely familiar, as if I were remembering a life I had never lived. The door closed behind Elena and the lawyer, but their energy lingered like toxic smoke. Lucas sagged back, his body shaking now that the facade of strength had dropped. "Thank you," he whispered, eyes shut. She does not understand." "What does she not understand?" I asked softly, adjusting his pillow. My fingers found a knot of tension in his shoulder and pressed it loose, a gesture that should have been clinical, but felt deeply personal. He opened his eyes, and for the first time I saw tears there. "Everything. She does not understand that some things are more important than money. That legacy is not what you leave, but what you build." My own emotions were so tangled I could barely name them. Here I was, an orphan who had spent a lifetime imagining a family, pretending to be the daughter of a man who clearly carried his own grief about children lost. "Why did you choose me?" The question slipped out. "There are dozens of nurses in this hospital. Why me?" He studied my face, his gaze moving over every feature as if searching. "There is something about you," he said at last, Resilience. You remind me of someone I knew long ago. The clock on the wall read 7 minutes past 3 in the afternoon. 20 minutes since Elena left, and the outside world seemed to have vanished. We were in a bubble where normal rules did not apply. "Tell me about your daughter," I prompted gently. "What was she like?" The pain in his eyes was almost physical. "Her name was Sophia. She had your smile, that way you smile with your eyes before your mouth. And your determination." My heart ached for him, and for myself. For every lost daughter and absent father. For all the stories that were never told. "What happened to her?" I asked, stepping into dangerous territory and unable to stop. He closed his eyes, and for a moment I thought he had fallen asleep. When he spoke again, his voice was so soft I had to lean in. "She was gone 20 years ago. A car accident on Route 2. I was not there when she needed me." The words hung between us, heavy with decades of unresolved guilt. Suddenly I understood. He was not just asking me to pretend. He was trying to rewind time, to mend what was broken. "Sometimes," I said quietly, my own wounds threading my voice, "people leave before we are ready to let them go. It is no one's fault, it is just life." He opened his eyes, and what I saw there took my breath. Not only pain or regret, recognition. As if he saw something in me that I did not know was there. "You have lost someone, too," he said, not asked. My throat tightened. I lost the chance to know if there was anyone to lose. I grew up in the system. I never knew my parents. The silence that followed was different, closer, more understanding. Two strangers bound by family-shaped holes. "Perhaps," he whispered, his hand finding mine again, "we can help fill a few of those empty spaces. Even if only for a day." Something fundamental shifted between us. We were no longer just a nurse and her patient, or even an actress and her audience. We were two wounded souls finding a temporary harbor. We spent the next hour talking about small things, films we liked, favorite foods, childhood memories. He told me Sophia loved horses and dreamed of Ireland. I told him about my obsession with mystery novels and how, as a child, I imagined my parents were spies who would one day come back for me. It felt natural, that dance between truth and make-believe. I was no longer pretending to be Sophia. I was becoming a version of her, or perhaps a version of myself that might have been if life had turned differently. When the monitors chimed softly for his medication, disappointment pricked me. The spell was breaking. Hospital reality was creeping back into our fragile world. "I need to give you your medication," I said, standing reluctantly. He caught my hand. "Promise you will come back tomorrow. That we will continue this." Fear lived in his eyes, fear of being abandoned again, fear of dying alone. "I promise," I said, and for the first time since I accepted this insane part, I realized I was not lying. At the sink, my eyes found my reflection. Who was the woman looking back? The professional nurse crossing ethical lines? The orphan starving for connection? Or something new being born in this room of pain and grace? When I returned, Lucas was studying a small photo from the nightstand. A girl of about 10 with red braids and freckles across her nose, Sophia. She had my eyes, I realized with a jolt. The same slight tilt, the same fierce green. "She would be your age now," he said softly. 28. Perhaps with a family of her own. Perhaps, I agreed, taking the photo. Our fingers touched, and a strange current moved through my hand, like an echo of something familiar I should have known. That was when I understood there was something more at stake. not only comforting a dying man or soothing my loneliness. A thread linked our stories, something neither of us yet understood. As he slept, Sophia's photo still in his hand, I watched his face smooth with rest. An impossible question whispered at the edge of thought. What if this was not a performance? What if, against all logic, I was exactly where I belonged? The sound of the door opening made me jump. Elena was back, alone this time. Her eyes fell on the photo in Lucas's hand, then on me. "You seem to be getting attached to your role, nurse," she said, her voice a silk wire. "Allow me to remind you, replaceable parts are discarded when they cease to be useful." Before I could answer, she turned and left, her promise ringing like a threat. A cold grew in my stomach. The game I thought I was playing was far more dangerous than I had imagined. Somewhere between truth and lies, I had crossed a line, and I was no longer sure I could find my way back. But our connection woke something dangerous, someone who would do anything to keep the past buried. The door closed behind Elena, but her threat coiled through the room. My fingers shook as I straightened the tray, the clink of vials echoing my agitation. Lucas slept deeply, Sophia's photo tucked in his relaxed hand. Watching his peaceful face steadied me, until I noticed his breathing was unnaturally even, almost mechanical. My training snapped to attention before my mind caught up. I moved to the bed, my palm to his forehead. Cool. Too cool for normal rest. My eyes flicked to the monitors, readings perfectly normal. Too perfect. "Mr. Alencar?" I whispered, shaking him gently. "Lucas?" No answer. His chest rose and fell in that same mechanical rhythm, but through my stethoscope his heart sounded wrong. Too soft. Too far away. Panic clawed up my throat. Someone had tampered with the monitors. Someone had given him something they should not have. My mind jumped to Elena, her swift exit, her veiled threat. Was this her answer to our small rebellion? Poison to hurry the inevitable? I ran for the door, hands shaking so badly I could barely turn the handle. I needed help, needed Dr. Robertson, needed anyone who could reverse whatever they had done. The door would not open. I twisted harder, shoved. Nothing. We were locked from the outside. "Someone!" I shouted, pounding the door. "We need help!" Silence. The kind of silence people are instructed to keep. I hurried back. Lucas did not respond, small tremors now rippling through him. This was not his condition worsening. This was acute. Induced. My gaze swept the room, and found them. The medication vials Elena had brought earlier, laid out just so on the table. One had no label. I opened it, sniffed. Not a familiar medication, there was a faint sweet almond scent. Cyanide? The thought turned my stomach. No. Too obvious. Something subtler. Something that could be written off as a natural complication of his disease. Toxicology training flashed back. There are substances that can mimic degenerative symptoms, accelerating decline without obvious traces. I grabbed the bedside phone and dialed the pharmacy. Nothing. Dead line. We were completely isolated. I knelt by the bed and took Lucas's hand. "Lucas, please," I begged, tears falling onto his arm. "Fight. Please fight." His eyes sprang open, unfocused, fixed on something beyond me. "Sophia," he breathed, voice like dry leaves. "You came back to me?" My heart stopped. He did not see me, he saw his daughter. The real Sophia. Yes, Father, I answered, the lie easier this time, fueled by real terror. I am here. I am not going anywhere. His eyes slowly found my face, and for the first time since we met I saw fear in them, not fear of death, but fear of losing something precious he had just regained. They do not want me to see you, he whispered, squeezing my hand with surprising strength. She said you are not real. Who told you that, Father? I asked gently, though I already knew. His breath quickened. My wife. She showed papers. Said you were an imposter. That I was delirious. The anger was blinding. Elena was not only killing him, she was breaking his mind first, making him doubt his own reality. She lied, Father, I said, wiping sweat from his brow. I am here. I am real. He searched my face, hunting for a flaw, for proof I was an illusion. Your eyes, he whispered at last. They are different from hers. Greener. Like my mother's. Something in the way he said it made me still. Too specific, too personal for mere delirium. Tell me about your mother, I said, keeping my voice calm while my mind raced. I needed to keep him awake, aware, while I figured out how to get us out. He closed his eyes, a sad smile touching his mouth. Her eyes were like emeralds. She said they were an inheritance from her Irish grandmother. Sophia had my eyes. But you... His eyes opened, fully lucid. Who are you, really? The question hovered between us, loaded with meanings neither of us fully grasped. The truth was I no longer knew. The line between Nurse Isabel and the daughter he needed had dissolved. I am who you need me to be, I said, and for the first time, I believed it. That was when I heard it, the faint scrape of a key. Someone was trying the lock. I stood quietly and took up the heavy saline bottle as an improvised weapon. If Elena had come to finish this, I would not let her. The handle turned and the door opened a few inches before catching, still locked from the inside, but I could see who was there. Not Elena. The gardener I had seen earlier, his face creased with worry. Nurse, he whispered through the gap. I have to speak with you. It is urgent. Suspicion was my first instinct. He worked for Elena. But something in his eyes, an earnestness everyone else here lacked, made me hesitate. What do you want? I kept my voice low. She dismissed the night staff, he said quickly. It is just me and the night guard. And he has orders not to interfere, no matter what he hears. Ice ran through me. Elena was clearing the house of witnesses. I need help, I said, my voice shaking. I think he has been poisoned. The gardener, Robert, I remembered now, nodded, face set. I know. I saw her tamper with his meds earlier. Here is the antidote. He slid a small vial through the gap. Activated charcoal. Give it to him at once. And take this. An old yellow envelope slipped through. Hide it. Your life may depend on it. I took both, my hands trembling. Why are you helping me? He glanced down the hall. I worked for Mr. Alencar 20 years. And because I believe you are who you say you are. Before I could ask what that meant, he was gone, leaving me alone with my questions and the man fading in the bed. I returned to Lucas, hands shaking as I prepared the charcoal. Father, you need to drink this, I said, lifting his head. He resisted, eyes clouded with doubt. She said you would try to poison me. The pain of that hit like a blow. Elena had planted her doubts deep enough that he saw the threat in me. "Please, Father," I pleaded, tears falling onto his face. "Trust me. Just this once." Something in my voice, raw, urgent, reached him. His lips parted and I got a little down. The effect was almost immediate. He began to cough violently, his body racked. For a terrifying moment I thought Robert had tricked me, that I had finished what Elena started. Then his breathing deepened, his eyes cleared. He looked at me and, for the first time since it began, truly saw me. "Isabel?" His voice was thin, but lucid. "I am here," I said, gripping his hand. "You are all right now." Even as I said it, I knew it was not true. Nothing was all right. We stood at the center of a storm just beginning, and I could feel the rules of the game sliding out from under us. It was no longer about comforting a dying man or filling my own emptiness. It was about survival. His and mine. And the envelope Robert had given me, still unopened, already heavy as stone in my pocket, told me the answers I sought might be more frightening than any question I had dared to ask. Clarity seeped back into Lucas's eyes like a rising tide, slow, inexorable. He studied me, his mind clearly sorting the blurred events of the past hours. What happened?" His voice was rough, stronger than before. I sat on the edge of the bed, still holding his hand. A decision formed in me, clear and cold. I could no longer be only the nurse. Not when someone was actively trying to kill him. "Someone tampered with your medication," I said evenly, meeting his eyes. "I believe it was Elena." He did not look surprised. Instead, a deep sadness crossed his face. "I knew," he whispered. "These past months, small things. Things you could blame on the disease, but..." His voice faded, and fury rose in me. He knew. He knew and stayed. "Why? Why did you not act?" It came out harsher than I intended. He met my eyes, and what I saw there took my breath. Not resignation or fear, resolve. Because I needed to be certain. And because I was waiting for you. The words hung between us, full of meanings my mind refused to process. Waiting for me? How could he have been waiting for someone he did not know existed 3 months ago? I remembered the envelope. My hands shook as I opened it, the paper hot against my fingers. Inside was a single document, a DNA report. My eyes skimmed until I found the name at the top. Isabel Marie Connolly. My name. Then the result. A probability of paternity of 99.8%. Lucas Allen Carr listed as father. The world stopped. The monitors beep, my breath, even time. This cannot be right, I whispered, my knees giving as I braced on the bed. Lucas watched my face, his expression relief and dread. "I knew the first day you walked into this room," he said quietly. "You have my mother's eyes. The same tilt when you think. Even your voice, it has her timbre." My mind spun, begging for a flaw, any reason this could be less impossible. "But how? Why did you not tell me?" "Because I needed to be certain who you were," he said, voice tight with emotion. "And because Elena, she killed my first daughter. I could not risk her doing the same to you. She killed my first daughter," cracked like a gunshot. My stomach turned. "Sophia?" I managed, my voice a thread. He closed his eyes, pain carving his face. "It was not an accident. Elena discovered my affair with your mother. When Sophia was born, She made it look like an accident. The world rearranged itself, every piece locking into a terrible picture. The push to sign the will. The isolation. The altered meds. It all made sense now, awful, lethal sense. Why did you not go to the police? I asked, shaking. No proof, he said, opening his eyes. And because I deserved it. I shattered my family for greed, for ambition. I married Elena for her connections, not love. And when I met your mother, his voice failed, tears standing in his eyes. Her name was Catherine. She was everything Elena was not. Kind, genuine. But I was too much a coward to leave my marriage. When she became pregnant, I sent her away. Told her to do whatever she wished with the baby. Every word was a blade. My story, the mother who left me, the system, the years alone, reduced to this man's cowardice. She left me at an orphanage, I said, flat. Did you know that? The pain in his eyes was answer enough. I learned only recently. When my health declined, I hired investigators. They found her, your mother. She died 5 years ago. Cancer. The room spun. My entire life, all my unanswered questions, and here were the answers, in a room with a man who chose wealth over his own child. Anger so pure it dazzled me. He knew. He knew and did nothing. You left me there, I whispered, fists clenched. You knew and left me in the system. I did not know. His voice broke with genuine anguish. Catherine never told me where she left you. She despised me for abandoning her. The investigator found the orphanage only 3 months ago. That was when I brought you here. 3 months. Exactly when I started. Not chance. Not luck. Calculation. Truth hit like a train. I thought I was helping a stranger, building a genuine bond, but it had been a game from the start. I stood, pulling back. The distance felt unbridgeable, not only physical, but moral. So all of this, I gestured at the room, our relationship, everything, was just what? Your guilty conscience? Your attempt to make things right before you die? He tried to sit, his face pale. At first, yes. It was redemption. But then I met you. And you were more than I ever hoped. Stronger, more compassionate, more everything. His words should have comforted me. Instead, I felt exposed. Every vulnerable moment I shared, every confession about my loneliness and wanting a family, played under false pretenses. I have to go, I said, my leg shaking. Please do not, he begged, reaching for me. She will kill you if you leave now. You know too much. He was right. Elena would never allow her husband's illegitimate daughter, who knew her crimes, to walk free. But staying meant accepting that everything between us was born from lies. It meant forgiving a man who abandoned me before I was born. My mind jumped to Robert. He knew. He helped because he knew. How many others in this house understood the deadly game within these walls? The envelope trembled in my hands, the DNA report heavy as iron. I had proof. Proof of who I was, proof Lucas knew, proof Elena was a killer. Proof for whom? For police likely on Elena's payroll? For courts where Alan Carr money bought silence? That was when I understood there was no safe exit. Leaving meant death. Staying meant betraying everything I believed in. Lucas watched me, his green eyes, my eyes, filled with aching understanding. I know I failed you, he said softly. Nothing I say can fix 28 years of abandonment. But please, allow me to try. Allow me to be the father I should have been. Then he said the words that changed everything. I have stage 4 pancreatic cancer, Isabel. The doctors gave me 6 months, that was 8 months ago. Every day is borrowed. I do not want to waste what remains being the coward I have always been. The cancer explains so much, the pallor, the weight loss, the pain episodes I had attributed to his heart. It explained Elena's urgency, she was racing his clock. My decision did not arrive like lightning, but like tide, slow, inevitable, reshaping the shore. I returned to the bed and took his hand. Not the trembling hand of a patient, but the steady hand of my father. All right, I said, my voice steadier than I felt. We will fix this. Together. Relief broke across his face so deep it hurt to see. But we both knew my forgiveness was not free. It was strategy. An alliance between two people with everything to lose and one narrow chance to live. Because I finally understood the real choice before me. It was not stay or go. It was whether to live as a victim in someone else's story, or claim my own. I chose to fight. Even as I chose, a part of me wondered if I was trading one cage for another, the isolation of the orphanage for a family web of danger. Time would tell. And from the sound of steps in the hall, sure, familiar, time was a luxury we no longer had. The footsteps stopped outside the door, and for a long breath everything was still. My hand was in Lucas's, our new alliance fragile as glass under load. The handle turned, slow, deliberate, and the door swung open. Elena was not alone. 2 men in dark suits flanked her, their faces blank and professional. Private security, I realized. Loyalty bought, not earned. Lucas, darling, Elena began, voice mellifluous, eyes like ice. I see you are feeling better. Perfect, because we have urgent matters to resolve. Her gaze skimmed over me, unmasked contempt in its wake. Nurse, you may leave us. My husband and I need privacy. Lucas tightened his grip, a silent signal. Isabel stays, he said, voice stronger than I expected. Whatever you have to say to me, you can say in front of my daughter. Daughter landed like a declaration of war. Elena's eyes narrowed, and for the first time I saw true rage, not calculated, but primal and dangerous. Your daughter, she repeated, each syllable a blade. Lucas, your condition is clearly worsening. You are confusing the nurse with ghosts. I am not confused, he answered, still holding my hand. Isabel is my daughter. And she will stay. One guard stepped forward. Mr. Alencar, perhaps it would be best. Get out of my room, Lucas cut in, wearing the authority of the man who built an empire. All of you. Now. For a heartbeat I thought it might work. The guards hesitated, looking to Elena. Then she laughed, a dry sound that chilled me. Oh, Lucas, she sighed. Ever theatrical. I brought a little, additional persuasion. She gestured, and one guard placed a folder on the side table. Transfer of guardianship, she explained, smile widening. Given your declining mental state, I thought it best that someone responsible take over decisions for you. For your safety, of course. My blood ran cold. She was moving to declare him incompetent. With that, she would control his fortune, his company, his life. You cannot do that, Lucas said, but doubt had crept into his voice. Oh, but I can, she purred. I have statements from 3 physicians regarding your cognitive decline. Witnesses who saw you confuse staff with relatives long dead. And now, her eyes landed on me. This pathetic charade. She stepped closer, and for the first time I saw the document she carried, not a will, but something worse. A restraining order, she said, handing it to me. Against you, Nurse Connolly. For harassment, attempted extortion, and exploitation of a vulnerable man. The floor gave way. She was not only separating us, she was criminalizing me. If this held, I would never work again. I might go to prison. You are lying, I managed, hands shaking as I held the paper. Me? She feigned innocence. I have witnesses. Staff who saw you pressure Lucas to amend his will. Records of you researching his fortune. And even this. She drew another sheet from her folder. A copy of the DNA report, the one Robert had given me. Forgery, she said sweetly. A very serious crime. Especially when used to impersonate a dead man's daughter. My throat closed. She knew. She knew everything and had turned our only proof against us. Lucas tried to rise, his face ashen with fury. Where did you get that? Robert was very cooperative, she said, a predatory smile. After I reminded him his daughter requires medical care his gardener's pay could never cover. The ground tilted. Robert had betrayed us. Our only ally had sold us out. He gave me the antidote, I whispered, stunned. Oh yes, Elena laughed softly. Activated charcoal. Very dramatic. Almost made me believe you actually cared. She turned to the guards. Please escort Nurse Connolly off the premises. Make sure she understands if she approaches my husband again, the charges will be criminal. The guards advanced, and I backed away, my heart pounding. Wait, Lucas said, but his voice was fading. He was gasping again, face gray. Isabel, no! You would be wise to cooperate, dear, Elena told me, sugar over poison. Unless you wish Lucas to suffer more than necessary. The threat was plain. Resist, and she would hurt him. I looked at Lucas, pain and despair in his eyes. He reached for me, his fingers barely moving. The medication, or whatever she had given him, was taking hold again. All right, I said, oddly calm. I will go. The guards gripped my arms, iron hands. They turned me toward the door, not before I caught Lucas's last look, not farewell, but promise. A promise this was not the end. Elena smiled as I passed her. Good girl, she murmured. Sometimes it is wiser to know when to quit. I was not quitting. Every step toward the door was measured. Every breath, a vow. They marched me down the hall past staff who would not meet my eyes. No one would help. No one would risk Elena Alencar's wrath. In the main foyer, a guard handed me my bag, searched, of course. Everything I owned reduced to a nurse's purse. If you return, we call the police, he said, blank-faced. I did not answer. I took my bag and walked out, the cold Boston night filling my lungs. I was alone. No job. No home. A restraining order and accusations that could end my career. But I also had something Elena had not counted on, the certainty of who I was. And the will of an Alencar. She was right about one thing. I was Lucas Alencar's daughter. And Alencars do not give up easily. As I walked into the dark, one question echoed. Robert had betrayed us, but why? The gardener who helped me, Who gave me the antidote? Why would he change sides? Unless he had not. Unless it was part of something larger. The fall was not the end. It was the beginning of the real game. And I was about to learn to play by my own rules. A fine Boston rain slicked my face as I wandered the dark streets, each drop like a tear I refused to cry. My bag thumped against my leg, its contents rifled, but not emptied, I realized. At the bottom, where Elena had not checked, lay Robert's yellow envelope. And something else, a small business card I did not recognize, a phone number scrawled on the back. I ducked under a marquee, hands shaking as I turned it over. Dr. Enrique Martinez, Chief Researcher, Alencar Pharmaceuticals. The name was familiar. Lucas had mentioned him, the man chasing a cure. Why would Robert give me this? Unless his betrayal was part of something larger. I found one of the few remaining pay phones and dialed with trembling fingers. One ring, two, then a man's voice. Martinez. Dr. Martinez? My voice was rough. My name is Isabel Connolly. Robert gave me your number. A silence, then, where are you? I glanced around and described my location. Stay there, he said quickly. Do not move. Someone will get you in 15 minutes. The line clicked dead. I waited in the rain, every minute an hour, every sound a threat. A trap? Had Elena found the card and staged this? A black, unremarkable car pulled to the curb. The passenger window slid down. Robert sat at the wheel. Get in, he said, eyes raking the mirrors. Fast. I slid in, the car's warmth a shock after the cold. What is going on? I thought you betrayed us. I had to make it look real, he said, voice tight as he merged into traffic. Elena watches everything. If I refused, she would have killed us all. But the antidote, the DNA report. All part of the plan, he said, turning down a side street. We had to make Elena believe she was in control. That she had beaten us. Plan? What plan? He glanced at me, eyes grave. Your father's plan. He knew this would happen. He prepared. My heart punched hard. What do you mean? Lucas is not the helpless, dying man Elena believes, Robert said, parking before an unremarkable apartment building. For 2 years, while she thought he was fading, he was preparing. Building networks. Gathering proof. He cut the engine and faced me. Isabel, everything today, your dismissal, the restraining order, even my supposed betrayal, was choreographed. It was the only way to get you out of danger while we set the counterattack. The world rearranged again. Lucas was not a victim, he was a strategist. And I was not a pawn in his game, I was part of it. Why did he not tell me? I asked, my voice trembling. Because you needed to look genuinely blindsided, he said. Elena smells lies. If you knew, she would have seen it. He opened the door. Come. Someone needs to meet you. We rode the elevator to the top floor. Robert opened an apartment with a key from his pocket. Inside, a gray-haired man in glasses stood before a wall webbed with photos, documents, strings, an investigator's map that would shame professionals. Dr. Martinez, Robert said. This is Isabel. The man turned, eyes intent. Lucas's daughter, he said, not a question. At last. What is happening? I asked, voice firmer now. Where's my father? Safe, Martinez said, gesturing to a chair. For the moment. Not for long. He pointed to the wall. This is what we are up against. Elena is not acting alone. She is part of a group inside Alencar Pharmaceuticals that wants the company. They plan to kill Lucas's research into rare diseases and funnel everything into high-profit drugs. I thought of Lucas's passion for cures, his contempt for corporate greed. The cure he mentioned. It is real, Martinez said. We found it. Not only for his disease, but for several rare genetic conditions. Elena and her allies want to bury it. They believe curing people is not sustainable business. The monstrosity of it stole my breath. They were not only trying to kill Lucas, they were prepared to condemn countless lives for profit. What can we do? I asked. Martinez gave a tired, determined smile. Lucas set pieces in motion. He moved the research to secure labs. Established foundations to keep the work alive no matter what. And he prepared this for you. He handed me a thick envelope. Inside lay documents, stock certificates, powers of attorney, even an alternate will naming me sole heir to his controlling stake. He wants you to take the helm, Martinez said gently. To protect his legacy. Not the legacy of money, but of compassion. His words echoed what Lucas had said, legacy is what you build. I understood now why Lucas found me, why he pulled me into this fight. It was not about absolution. It was about someone who shared his values. Someone who knew some things mattered more than profit. What do I need to do? I asked, my hands steady. Robert and Martinez traded looks. First, we get Lucas out of the mansion, Robert said. Elena will move to declare him incompetent in the morning. Once she has legal control, everything is harder. How? I asked. Martinez pointed to a photo, a security guard. We have an ally on the inside. He will help us extract Lucas tonight. But we need a distraction. Both men looked at me. Elena expects you to run, Robert said. To hide. If you show up at the mansion, it will be the last thing she expects. It was insane. To return where I had been expelled, under a restraining order, to face a woman who wanted me dead. But the wall of evidence stared back, photos of children who would be helped by Lucas's research, stories of families who depended on the work. This was no longer about me, or Lucas, or even justice. It was about something bigger. All right, I said, standing. What do I do? Their smiles held pride and worry. They knew, as I did, that what we were about to attempt was dangerously thin. As Robert laid out the details, a feeling I had never known settled over me, a purpose larger than my life. A legacy worth fighting for. When we stepped back into the night, the rain had stopped and stars pricked through thinning clouds. An omen, perhaps. Or just Boston being Boston. It did not matter. Whatever came next, I had found my place. And I would fight to keep it. Robert parked a block from the Alencar mansion, lights off as we watched the house blaze against the night. Every lit window was a watchful eye, every shadow, a hidden guard. Remember the plan, Robert whispered, fingers drumming the wheel. You have 15 minutes. If I do not get your signal by then. I know, I cut in, my hands steady. The envelope from Martinez was tucked inside my coat, its papers feeling like armor against what waited. I slipped into the cold and walked toward the mansion not as an intruder or a victim, but as an heir returning to claim what was hers. The main gates were locked. Robert had shown me a service entry behind the gardens that led straight to Lucas's rooms, the same door he had used to pass me the antidote. Every step through the dark garden was measured, every sound a stop and listen. The mansion was strangely quiet. Too quiet for a house on high alert. The service door creaked softly as I eased it open. I slid inside. The service corridor was empty, the low lights throwing restless shadows. Up the back stairs, each tread worn by generations of staff whose loyalty, Robert said, still belonged to Lucas, not Elena. Lucas's door stood ahead, 2 guards stationed outside. The same men who had thrown me out hours ago. They saw me coming, faces unreadable. One stepped forward. "You should not be here, nurse. We have orders." "From whom?" I asked, voice level. "From Elena? Or from the man who pays your salaries?" They exchanged a quick look. "Mr. Alencar is not receiving visitors. He will receive this one," I said, opening the envelope and showing the top document, a power of attorney granting me full medical authority over Lucas. "Open the door." They hesitated for a long second, then the older one nodded. "5 minutes," he said, unlocking it. "We stand right here." I stepped in, and froze. Lucas was not in bed. He sat in an armchair by the window, not in a hospital robe but in a suit. Elena knelt beside him, holding his hands. "Ah, Isabel," she said, rising smoothly. "We have been waiting for you." Ice slid through me. A trap. Everything, Robert, Martinez, the plan, hers all along. Lucas turned, and for the first time I saw not a sick man but a commander. His eyes were clear, his posture straight. "Isabel," he said, voice strong and steady. "Sit. We have much to discuss." "What is happening?" My legs threatened to give. You were not sick?" "Oh, I am sick," he said, a sad smile. "But not the way you think. And certainly not the way Elena here would prefer." Elena laughed softly, perching on the bed. "Dear, do you truly think I betrayed my husband for money on a whim?" She gestured toward Lucas. "For 2 years, while the world thought he was dying, we were working together. Cleaning house, you might say." Truth hit like a punch. They were not adversaries, they were allies. The performance, the drama, a staging. "Why?" I managed, a whisper. "Because Alencar Pharmaceuticals was being taken from within," Lucas said. "Corrupt executives, researchers selling secrets, even board members working with competitors. We needed a way to flush them out at once. And you were the perfect bait," Elena added. "The illegitimate daughter appearing from nowhere. Everyone who aligned with you against me revealed themselves." My stomach turned. I was not part of the plan, I was the tool. Disposable. "And Robert? Martinez?" I asked, fists clenched. "Cooperating," Lucas said gently. "Robert has worked for me 20 years. Martinez has his own reasons for wanting the company clean." The door opened and Martinez stepped in, face grave. "It is done," he told Lucas. "We have evidence on 12 senior executives, including the vice president. The federal agents are moving as we speak." Lucas nodded, eyes still on me. "Now you see, Isabel? All of this was necessary. Not only to save my company, but to preserve work that can save thousands of lives." The anger was blinding. They had used me. Puppeteered every emotion, every vulnerable moment. Made me believe I had found a family, when I had been a piece on their corporate chessboard. "And me?" I asked, voice shaking with fury. What happens to me now? Am I discarded like the rest? Lucas did the one thing I did not expect. He stood, truly stood, unaided, and came to me. Tears, real tears, brightened his eyes. "Isabel," he said, voice thick. "The performance, yes, it was a performance. But what I feel for you, that is real." He took my hands, steady and warm, not the trembling hands of the man I had met. "When the investigators found you, I intended only to use you. Then I met you. And you are everything I ever hoped my daughter would be." His words should have soothed. They made me feel more exposed than ever. For me, the connection had been real. For him, it had been a means to an end that became something else only after. "I cannot do this," I said, stepping back. "I cannot forgive it. I cannot forget that you used me." Elena rose and moved closer, her voice unexpectedly gentle. "Isabel, let me tell you a story. 20 years ago, Lucas had an affair with a woman named Catherine. Your mother." She paused, letting it land. "When Catherine became pregnant, Lucas abandoned her. He chose his career, his ambition. And I helped Catherine. I gave her money to start a new life. I hid her from him when she begged me to." My heart stopped. "What?" "Sophia was not Lucas's daughter," Elena said, eyes carrying an old grief. "She was my niece. Catherine was my younger sister. When she died, I promised to protect her. And when I learned Lucas was searching for you, I knew I had to protect you, too." The room tilted. Nothing was what it seemed. No one who they claimed to be. "So, you did not try to kill him?" I asked, mind spinning. "Oh, I would have killed him if I could," she said, a sad smile. "For what he did to Catherine. For abandoning you. But his work matters too much. The lives it can save, that matters more than my revenge." Lucas looked at her, and for the first time I saw genuine respect. "Elena and I made our peace long ago. But we had to maintain appearances. For the company. For the people who rely on us." He turned to me again. "Isabel, I know I failed you. I know nothing I say can fix the 28 years I missed. But please, allow me to try. Allow me to be the father I should have been." The tears finally came, not of rage or betrayal, but of a deep, complicated understanding. They were not heroes or villains. They were complicated people making brutal choices in impossible circumstances. And I had a choice. I could let anger and disappointment devour me. Or I could accept that in an imperfect world, forgiveness is sometimes the only way to move forward. I walked to the window and looked over the dark gardens. To the world beyond that knew nothing of the games played within these walls. To the lives that would be saved by the research Lucas and Martinez were building. My story, I realized, was not about the past I lost. It was about the future I could make. I turned to Lucas. "All right," I said, clear and steady. "We try. But on our terms. No lies. No games." Relief washed his face so completely it hurt to see. "Thank you," he whispered. "Thank you." Elena nodded, a genuine smile touching her mouth for the first time. "Welcome to the family, Isabel." At last. As dawn broke over Boston, pouring gold into the room, I felt something I had never felt before, not the neat happiness of a fairy tale, but the complicated peace of accepting that life is messier, and more beautiful, than any story we could invent. Sometimes, I realized, The greatest transformation is not becoming someone new, but finding the courage to accept who you have always been, and using that truth to build something that matters. And I, Isabel Connolly, daughter, nurse, heir, was finally ready to begin.